Virginia, hey, how are you?
Trent, hello. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really well, really well.
Trent, I can't wait to explore with you something you once said to me. You said, creativity saved my life. What do you mean by that?
It's kind of a little bit in my blood to be destructive. I just see this really very clear image where I'm just a drunk eating Red Rooster chips and watching Platoon every night. That could have happened so easily. But the one thing I was able to do was kind of listen to people and turn the things that they're telling me into stories in the most powerful way. I wrote my first book after doing journalism for 18 years, and journalism for me was just me crafting the human heart, like me just sort of exploring the human heart, and then that kind of helped me explore my own.
Because the way I see it, your journalism is the tree, but your fiction is the flower, but they're all one organism.
That's a beautiful thing to say. It absolutely is.
Well, I'm coming to see you in Brisbane.
I'm so touched you're coming to Brisbane.
I'll see you soon.
Thanks, Virginia. I'll see you soon. Bye.
I'm Virginia Trioli, and I've spent my life paying attention to creative Australians and wondering what is going on in that wild mind of theirs. In this series, I'll showcase artists and performers at the peak of their powers and tell the story of their triumphs, their stumbles, and why they make the glorious work we love so much.
It's the coming-of-age story that has taken home the country's biggest literary prizes, including Book of the Year.
Trent Dalton turned his complex family history into an Australian epic for our times, and this celebrated journalist turned novelist has become a literary sensation.
Boy Swallows Universe has now sold about 1 million copies. I think that's in Australia alone.
Oh, thank you.
I'm thrilled to be unashamedly celebrating the art of making, because we are a country of so many brilliant, creative types.
This city saved me, this city made me. I write about this city, I live inside this city, I'll never leave this city. It's where my kids are growing up, it's where people I love passed, it's, it's everything.
Trent, hello.
Virginia, thank you so much for coming.
I came.
It's so great to see you.
Here in your beautiful city of Brisbane.
Welcome to paradise.
Let's have a look.
This place is my blood, it's my bones.
Is that why you're so specific in the books? That street, this suburbs, that building, you go to that level of detail?
I want readers to know that I'm talking about truth and I'm dealing with things that they know, and wasn't always the way when I was growing up. I didn't always read books and creative endeavours that were set in my city. I was dying for that. I would have loved nothing more than to go to my library and pick up a story about some kid out on the fringes of this city. And so when I write about people on the fringes like that, I want people to know I've walked those paths.
We hear a lot about the city being a character in a novel. There's a long tradition of that. But how do you do that, introduce that without it becoming cliche?
I wanted to turn the city of Brisbane into a city as romantic as Paris, as literary as London, and as interesting as New York. Why can't it be?
And you do that through detail, through drilling down.
You investigate every crack, you investigate every person sleeping on the gutter, you investigate every person up in the high-rises, and you find out, and you learn how to tell it truthfully.
Trent has this incredible superpower, exuberance and positivity and optimism, and it's just like, how great is everything? He's just, even when it's difficult and bad, it's like, how rich and great is it?
Trent's exuberance is one of his most distinctive features, but unless you read his books, you'd never know the darkness of his real story. How bad was the world of Brisbane that Trent Dalton grew up in?
Brisbane was one of the most dangerous spots, not just in Australia, but in the world. There were drugs, it was out of control. And this was the world that a little young Trent Dalton, not just on the periphery of that milieu, but indeed his family associations were with some of the most dangerous criminals in Australian history.
Trent describes his mother as beautiful and as loving as they come. But when he was a boy, she was doing time in jail for dealing heroin. So Trent and his brothers sought refuge in an unlikely place.
So Trent, why have you brought me here?
This is the amazing Brackenridge Library. If it was the early 90s, you'd have to kick the Dalton boys out of here. This place was paradise to us. The kids really need a place like this, and I certainly needed it when I was a young kid around here, and this was our great escape. You're coming into a place like this, and you're carrying with you like a little bit of fear and about your daily life, right? And a bit of longing, and you come into a place like this and you replace all those feelings with things like wonder and knowledge and confidence, because these amazing writers, these amazing creative people have shown you portals into different feelings. And every one of these books has a different feeling, and you know, it's just wild for me to see this suburb celebrating those feelings so much.
In a really good way. Tell me some of the writers that you loved at that young age.
Well, it goes comic books, football books, cricket books, fantasy books.
Yes.
And then it starts getting into some serious Steinbeck stuff, Dickens. Steinbeck in particular, the last 2 pages of Grapes of Wrath is like my religion. Like I think I became a journalist because of those last 2 pages. The incredible act of kindness that happens in those last 2 pages has kind of shaped the kind of man I want to be, or the kind of father I want to be, definitely the kind of writer I want to be. And it's these guys like Steinbeck who reminded me, you have an ability to kick back. The world will kick the shit out of you, but your creativity is your chance to kick back. And that is a very powerful lesson I learned in Brackenridge.
And he did kick back. With some help from his dad, Trent found a true life story to report and got a start in journalism, which led to a celebrated career as a features writer.
The Walkley goes to Trent Dalton.
Trent Dalton skillfully drew out offenders and their victims to provide insight into the issue of domestic violence and highlight the shortcomings of policies and policing.
He was in the unique position of going on to do social affairs reporting, but he had lived the consequences of the stories that he was telling.
That's very true. He understood inside those people's heads. He's one of the very few journalists I've ever come across in 40 years of journalism who has the most extraordinary capacity to listen. And people open up to him. And that's another very critical part of the combination of why he was such an excellent journalist and thus a novelist.
You know, the world gave me a job. The world said, we choose you to listen to these people, and you get to do that. Like, so do it well. And, you know, I always tried to write my long-form features with novelistic principles. And
what were those novelistic principles for you?
Make sure reader comes first, carry them from the first word to the 4,000th word, make sure your pieces are as powerful as they are entertaining, and journalism and quality journalism doesn't have to come at the cost of that. I find journalism so creative. I find the ability to write a feature story across 4,000 words just as intriguing and powerful as writing a 400,000 word novel, because you can bring into it storytelling devices, and you have to use all your skills to get them, you know, on a Saturday morning to tune into your little thing that you had to say. And I did that for like 20 years, and it was a great little school, great lessons.
In his journalism, Trent was telling the real stories that mattered to him, but they were other people's stories. And he had one of his own that was clamouring to get out.
I spent 6 months writing the dodgiest scripts for Hollywood producers. I wrote a script called Chad the Impaler, which was about a Californian Valley kid who's doing a high school project to a family tree project and traces his life back to Vlad the Impaler, Dracula, calls up his old great-great-great-great-great-granddad Vlad and he moves over to Hollywood, and Vlad helps him pick up girls and not get bullied and so forth. Lamest script ever. And I came back from that trip to LA just going, what am I doing? I'm writing a script called Chad the Impaler. And I knew inside my heart, I knew that I had like a pretty interesting story.
You had a better story to tell. So this is all before Boy Swallows the Universe.
And then I wrote this down. I swear, I think this might be the first time. So just look at this.
What does it say?
It says, Boy Swallows Universe, I really should just write a book. That phone was real. That house was real. He has a best friend in the real world, a real life look at love, for I was crazy then.
That's the bare bones. That's it.
The boy and his universe. It's my life, but surreal. It's that thing. I've written.
Set in Brisbane in 1985, Trent's story emerges as fiction. There's an alcoholic father, a mute brother, a heroin-using mum, a drug dealer for a stepfather, a notorious criminal for a babysitter, and Trent himself as the protagonist, 12-year-old Eli Bell.
You know, the whole process of writing Boy Swallows Universe was so fraught with emotion because, I had to call each member of the family and just go, hey, I'm sorry, I need to do what I'm going to do, which is write this book, which is fiction, but it's highly autobiographical, and you're part of that world.
I think you say it's 60-40 is the percentage.
Yeah, I say 60-40. Mum says 50-50, but I say 60-40 because there's 10% dreaming. And I think that's real. That happened.
Boy Swallows Universe became the biggest-selling debut novel in Australian history.
Boy Swallows Universe is a fantastic debut novel from author and Australian journalist Trent Dalton.
The one thing people are connecting to is that it's a story of hope and how love can kind of conquer all.
The story was tailor-made for the streaming era. Critically acclaimed and viewed by millions, Trent's story captured an entirely new audience.
Was it a very different creative process for you, the adapting of your book? Is different muscles required?
Only muscle was complete trust. It was a trust muscle. It was just put your faith in brilliant people.
The boys have experienced a lot of trauma over the years.
It's impossible to watch the adaptation of Boy Swallows Universe without being filled up with thoughts of Trent's family. And giving an astounding performance as his loving but dysfunctional father Noel is a barely recognisable Simon Baker.
I've got to tell you, there's a particular episode in Boy Swallows Universe where you just have me in shreds of tears.
It's a weird job. It's a weird job I have when people stop me on the street and say, oh my God.
Yeah, I know.
You broke my heart. I'm like, I'm so sorry.
I'm sure we both want nothing more than what's best for those boys.
Oh, and what's best is to take them away from me?
No one's saying that.
So how's that going to help? You split them up, all they got's each other. You put them in foster care, you tell them their dad's a monster. I love them boys. They're my boys.
He was outside watching on the monitor and I didn't know, and I went outside and he was just sort of in tears and he was like, oh my God. That's my dad. That's my dad. So I have no control over that. It's still, me being a character. I never met his dad. I don't know what his dad was like. That was maybe a fluke, that my actual energy and behavior was like his dad.
I have no proof. I have no evidence of this, but I personally believe Simon Baker knows darkness.
You mean you think that he's had dark times as well?
I just think he knows people exactly like my old man. I just think he knows him so well.
I grew up in a very blue collar, broken home, relatives in and out of prison. So it was all very relatable.
Did it feel like a collaboration with Trent, the recreation of his father's character?
He has an innate trust in process creatively. And I'm getting goosebumps talking about it because he bestowed that trust on me immediately in the creative process. And he basically gave me the green light to interpret it how I would like to interpret it and to trust myself more than anything. That was the gift that he gave me in his openness. He said, look, my father was equally the most terrifying person I've ever met and the most beautiful person I've ever met.
My old man, you know, he was so complex, Virginia. Like he got written off sometimes by my school teachers as this sort of, you know, as this sort of bogan guy, I guess. And it was just so wrong. Like, he's more like William Faulkner here. It was just that he was in the body of this Queensland drinker. He loved the beer, you know what I mean? I've got a thing here. I walked in, this was on his wall. He basically died alone in this Bribey Island Housing Commission. These are just the books he wanted to read. Yeah, Henderson and the Rain King, you know, Saul Bellow.
Thomas Wolfe was there.
Yeah, you know, just these, Edgar Allan Poe, just all these books. I'd do a story on a Saturday morning in the Weekend Oz mag, and he'd read it, and he'd just send me, and goes, nailed it. You know, just like, man,
And that's all you needed.
I'd kill for a nailed it on any of these books.
In the TV series, Phoebe Tonkin gives an unvarnished performance as Trent's mum, but that's as close to her as we're allowed to get. In real life, he fiercely protects her privacy.
I'm sorry, it's not the real deal, but she deserves her privacy. She's been through a whole bunch of shit in her life, and I just don't want to make her life any worse. But it's like, Mum, I want a picture of you. I don't know how it came about. And she's like got this sort of artistic caricature of her.
It's like a street drawing or something,
It
isn't
is.
it?
Someone's
Yeah.
done a street drawing of it. And so she, you know, I call her up one day and I'm like, Mum, I'm sorry you didn't raise a carpenter. I could have built you a cupboard, but you raised a writer. And I just really, for some reason, just feel like I need to write about our shared 1980s. And I'm like, you've got to read this book I wrote. And if there's a single thing in it that you don't like, you frickin' let me know. Like, please be so honest, because it can easily stay in the drawer. And I'll go back to journalism and I'll be very content because I love being a journalist. So it's all good. She reads it in a marathon read and she calls me up and she said, holy shit, like, wow. Trent, it's beautiful.
Did she have notes for you?
She did have notes. So then after we get all that bigger picture stuff out of the way, she's like, however,
yeah, here we go.
However, I have notes. And it was the funniest thing. I wish I had, I'm sure it's in one of my drawers somewhere.
She wrote them?
She wrote them out. It was like in a Spirax notepad, one of those journo, like yellow Spirax notepads. And she stapled them together, 20 pages of Kilometrico ballpoint ink. And it just says, it's like dead set. It says things like page 152. 5 kilograms of heroin wouldn't have cost that in 1985.
Fact-checking like we've never known before.
Total sub-editing fact-checking. Like, my wife does this stuff. It's like, yeah, but Mum's just like full insight. Like, page 275, they never would have served lamb cutlets in prison, Trent. It was always lamb forequarter. Just the most beautiful notes. And I cannot stress to you how grateful I am that she gave me the greatest gift when I was 38 years of age, you know, unexpectedly, and that was a story.
Boy Swallows Universe is adored by its legions of fans, but it's also become a moment of national catharsis for those who had troubled parents.
The man next to me probably needs no introduction, but Trent friggin' Dalton, everyone.
Adelaide, I love you so friggin' much. Second best city in the world. Thank you so much.
5 years ago, you were a lowly journalist asking the questions, and now you're the person up here with probably the biggest audience of any of the Adelaide Writers' Week sessions. What is an average week like for you now?
Yeah, I swear, it's not this.
I know why they're here. What do you want from them?
It's my chance to say thanks, but also it's their chance to go, hey, that was me too. Like, I was a kid like that, and I had a mum like that, had a dad like that. It makes the whole thing so beautiful.
So, Boy Swallows Universe is my childhood. Lola is my adulthood.
Oh, wow.
And I was the guy who broke into the prison to see my girlfriend every night for 2 weeks.
No.
Absolutely.
Oh, man. I've got to write your story. That's the most romantic story ever. They'll tell you the most incredible things. Like, they just want to share, and they just want to they want to tell you that they connected to it, and it's the most powerful thing.
Like I've bawled my eyes out, and I'm on page. What page am I on?
Oh yeah! Oh my God! There's a little bit more. There's a little bit more balling to do. I'm sorry. There's a lot. No, thank you so much. That's amazing. Yeah, you're the best.
If you watch Trent and you see what he does, he doesn't just release a book. He tours that book, he goes out, he talks to people. He likes to connect to people. He likes to encourage people. He likes to embrace people and help people embrace their own creativity. That's just something that is innately in him.
Simon Baker freaking nailed that guy like you would not believe.
He was so good.
He took the biggest glow down, Katrina, like to play this Queensland Forex gold drinking kind of guy, and but you can't take the handsome out of that Simon Baker. He's a handsome dude.
He's still there.
And my old man, just tough as nails, but had the words F off tattooed on the inside of his bottom lip, and just these incredible characters that you're growing up with, and it's the idea of bringing humour to balance out the world that you're in, and it's laughter to balance out the blood. That's something that Australians do beautifully.
So is that relationship with a reader, is it different to the relationship you have with the reader as a journalist? Their relationship as a novelist to the reader?
Yeah, I really think so. All my stuff as a journo was Saturday morning over cornflakes. The intimacy of a novel is 10:30 at night in your bed. And that's big, that's such an intimate space.
That's a different connection.
Oh, it's just before you go dream. It's just before you put your book down and you've just read a story about some kid in Brisbane, and you put that book down and you take that with you into your sleep. Like that's a real honour for me to sort of have that moment with them before they might have their own dreams. Yeah.
Since Boy Swallow's universe, Trent has published 2 other novels, All Our Shimmering Skies, and most recently, Lola in the Mirror.
Lola in the Mirror is the story of a homeless 17-year-old girl and her mother in Brisbane's city outskirts.
I wanted to write a book where we had all those beautiful things of hope and love, but still spoke a little bit about what's going on in Australia in 2023. In my home city, there's 12,000 people getting homelessness services every month, and many of them are mums, That is what is at the heart of Lola in the Mirror.
Love and hope are pole stars in Trent's work, and his unabashedly sentimental COVID project involved him sitting on a street corner in Brisbane recording other people's love stories.
So they stop and they sit in the chair and we just go deep. Who's the love of your life? Do you have a love story? And if they don't have a love story, they'll tell me a yarn. And then ultimately they always end up getting back around to love.
That book is now being turned into a play for the Brisbane Festival.
Thought we might go, Jason, we'll just go from the end of the setup into kind of so here I am, King George Square.
Gathering love stories, asking strangers to tell me love stories. And then I want to write those love stories on your beautiful Olivetti.
His heart is so out. It arrives before his body does, it's just this energy and it gives me a lot of hope in humanity. It really just sort of cuts through all of the other sort of negative shit. And it's just like, how great is everything?
So clearly people connect to him because even if they haven't lived those stories, there's something about the way he's telling them that makes them really relatable.
That's right, and it's why millions of people have connected with his books. And it doesn't matter, I know people in the highest echelons of Australian society that adore Trent's books, right down to people who never read. So that's a massive range that his books have covered. Why is that? I think he's absolutely not afraid to show the foibles of human beings, and especially himself, and especially his narrators and his main characters. He expresses how human they are and how we all screw up and how we try and crawl through to the other side. And he does it with great empathy, love, hope, and ultimately positivity.
So I hear on the grapevine that Lola in the Mirror might also be made into a TV series?
Yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. These things are really hard to get made, but because Boy people just respond to that around the world like so well, much to our great joy. Yeah, it looks like Lola's got a pretty good chance.
Well, this has all made you hugely famous. How is your... It has.
Wow, yeah.
How's the creativity holding up under the pressures of fame?
I just think every day about like my 12-year-old self. That really keeps me grounded. I think about where I came from. I really actively do it. I think about where I'm going. I think about who brought me here, and those people keep me grounded, you know. And I try to honour them. And sometimes I just want to talk to the 12-year-old kid in me, just say, mate, just remember, I'm not lying. It gets good. It really does get good.
Can I just say this? The best thing that's happened to Trent Dalton in a long time. But I can say, mate, your boys followed universe made me proud to be an Australian, made me proud to be a Brisbane guy, mate. Yeah! So, great cheers to Trent Dalton, have that?